12 NFL teams have clinched their playoff spot. Two more spots up for grabs. That means there are a number of teams that have been eliminated. As a result, we may hear and see more job openings coming down the line. Go back, listen to last week's episode where Neil and I discussed a number of those. On the college side, we are down to the final 8 in the college football playoff with 31 bowls down. The transfer portal remains hot, and everyone continues to ask and look for some clarity. And for those that are done with their college careers, time for all-star games. To start with that, the College Gridiron Showcase, one of the first of these all-star games, kicks off January 10th in Fort Worth, Texas, where players, agents, and scouts from the NFL, CFL, and UFL will have a chance to get eyes on players from across the country. Whether it is on the field work or interviews that interest in the most, Jose Jefferson and crew will have it all teed up and ready for play. So today, we talk CGS and the event it has become here on Scouting the League. Everyone, and Happy New Year. A great chance to listen to us today as you are perhaps working through the after effects of what was hopefully a happy New Year's Eve. Maybe you're in the car on a drive or perhaps just at home enjoying your time. We are a nice option to turn on and listen during these college football games. Certainly better than some of these analysts and play-by-play guys, but I won't get into my true thoughts on that. While you are listening, make sure you like, subscribe, and share wherever you are listening, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Megaphone, or even watching on YouTube. Give us that feedback. That is essential for our continued ascension into all things Scouting the League. Into the new year, we head with projects all over the place, projects galore, the desire to bring you content connections, the resources you need, whether you are an agent, aspiring agent, scout, aspiring scout, college personnel evaluator, or anyone in the football world. New projects like a scouting community, the go-to resource for anyone in the industry. I'm not going to call it a union, but perhaps a step into a collective effort to help each other in the scouting community. Something I'm working on. Make sure you hit me up on that. Perhaps it's the next wave. Learn the industry from Neil at Inside the League in a way you won't find anywhere else. Check out all Neil has to offer over at Inside the League, InsideTheLeague.com. It's the best spot to start getting ready for that 2025 agent exam. If that's something you're planning for, also so many more resources over there. All of it starts with you, the listener. Make sure you're liking, subscribe, and share, and find us wherever we're at. Neil and I are just the two behind the curtain, teeing it up for you, so let us know what you think. Of course, Neil, you can find him at Inside the League on X and at InsideTheLeague.com. Make sure you also check out his blog at SucceedInFootball.com. Some fascinating, fantastic, really good inside content there. Again, make sure you follow Neil on X. That's going to be your go-to spot for everything he does. I am Roderick David. At RightStepADV is where you can find me on X, and RSAFootball.com is my website. And to the man of the day, Jose Jefferson, Executive Director of the College Gridiron Showcase. Well, he also does wear some hats in the spring football leagues. Excited to get to both background on the College Gridiron Showcase and hear about this year's event, some of the players we're going to be so excited to see. So with that, Jose, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
And welcome aboard, it is 2025, and with a new year comes new changes, and the draft prep really gets going here. A bunch of bowl games done. We'll have college football playoff a little further along. We're here to focus on the CGS today, the College Gridiron Showcase, Fort Worth, Texas. Before we get there and your involvement with that, talk about your background story, origin story. How'd you get into football, and where you are today?
Wow. Well, the Reader's Digest version is I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and I went to the University of South Dakota on a track scholarship. I was actually an indoor-outdoor All-American in track and field jumper. I was a jumper, long, high, and triple jumper, and ran to 55 and 100 meters. And I was a three-sport athlete in high school, football, basketball, and track. and thought I was going to be a college basketball player, but that fell through. And football, I wasn't really like a guy. I was, just on the team. And then track was where I excelled. So I went to University of South Dakota, broke a few records up there, was an All-American, as I said, qualified for the Olympics in the triple jump in 1992. And can't put my age out there like that. But I played football in my last year and a half there. And it really wasn't playing because I was just, the football team wouldn't match any money. And so I was just kind of there, and we weren't very good. From there, I went to Arizona, and one of my roommates played on the Phoenix Suns on the practice squad. So I used to play pickup basketball with the Suns, Kevin Johnson, Charles Barkley, Dan Marley, all those guys. It was great. Wow. And one of them was like, well, your guy's pretty fast. You should try arena football. And I'm like, what's arena football? And so I worked out for had been a couple of months, and I went to a tryout, paid like $350 for this tryout, and Arizona Rattlers, and the head coach is Danny White. And yeah, it was impressive. You had all these guys there, and I went there, and I ran a 40. What they do is they run a 40 and you walk back and you run another one. And so the first one I ran, I just stopped, and I went to the guy. I'm like, hey, what did I run? He's like, get to the other line. I was like, oh, I guess I wasn't supposed to ask. And so they tied me at 10, 20, and 40. And you go to the first line, and I went to the second line. All the guys on this side went over here. And the guy who was running the other side, he goes, well, you must have did something because they don't want to tie me. So I went and I ran again. And Danny White came up to me. He didn't ask me what my name was, where I went to school. He said, can you catch? And I was like, yeah. He goes, go sit down. So I sat down, and I sat down for 3 hours until they got through all these 400 or 500 guys that they're going through. And his brother, Chris White, who is an assistant coach as well, younger brother. And he goes, yeah, you ran pretty fast out there. And I was like, oh, what did you run? He goes, I go, what I run? He goes, well, 4:29. And it was fully automatic, and they couldn't really believe it. So that's why they had to run the other one. And I was like, oh. And so I got on there, and I was on the practice squad there for the first year. And I got into an exhibition game, and I returned a kick 55 yards indoor, which is kind of crazy. And it was, trust me, it wasn't spectacular. I actually fumbled the ball off the net and went to scoop it and scooped it into the corner. And you kind of feel somebody coming. So I turned one way, ran across the end zone, turned the other way, and then ran all the way back. Me and the kicker, I'm scoring. And Buddy Ryan was there, actually. And so when he saw that, he invited me to camp with the Cardinals. So I went to camp with the Cardinals, and that was great. I mean, I got my butt kicked every day, but I mean, it was there. And then I went back to Arizona. We won the championships, and I thought, for sure I'd probably stay. And then I get traded because I'm from the Midwest. And I'm like, I'm down in Phoenix. It took me, I don't want to go back home. And they go, well, I was going to have a team. And you need to go back up there, and we're going to trade you out of division. They don't want to deal with me. Right. And I followed a great guy. His name is Hunky Cooper. In fact, he works on the Vegas UNLV staff right now. He's a legend there, and I didn't play, if not at all. But so they traded me to Iowa. So I'm thinking, shoot, I'm gonna go to Iowa and do my thing. They cut me. They traded for me and cut me because the coach brought his players from Canada, and he was a Canadian coach and brought his guys. And so I'm heated, right? I just got done with a world championship team, and I get traded. I'm going to start a team, and I get cut. They didn't even see me. So one of their defensive coordinator, their player personnel guy, calls me up, and he goes, hey, we heard you're fast. And I'm like, well, that's why you traded for me. And he goes, well, what do you run? I said, 4.3. He goes, no, what are you going to run when you get here? And I'm like, 4.3. And I said, well, when I get there and do that, you better have the contract. So I'm pissy, I'm 25 years old. So I'm, I got a little spunk on me. So I walk in, and, the tryout was at the University or Iowa State, their indoor facility there. So I walk in, and I said, yeah, Jose Jefferson. And they go, oh, Mr. 4.3. So now I'm really heated, oh, y'all, and get this. I'm sitting there, and I'm just pissed. And so they're getting ready to run 40s. I had a hat on, shirt like this, and I had track pants, the high tighter pants, had my shoes untied. And so I get there and kick my shoes off, get the turf shoes on, take the hat off. And I didn't even strip down. Pew! 431. And everyone's like, oh, and I go, where's the contract? And they're like, I said, I told you when I do that, where's the
Told you.
contract? And they're like, well, and I said, screw this, I'm gonna go. And I had a tryout with Milwaukee had a team at the time, the Mustangs, and then St. Louis had the Stampede. So I'm hitting the circuit,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
You certainly-
And so
Midwest
this
South.
so this guy runs up, he goes, hey, he goes, dude, he goes, you just like blew the doors off, man. He goes, why don't you run some routes with us? And I'm like, I said, man, I'm ready to go. He goes, come on, man, let's just run some routes. I go, all right, man, my name's Jose. Kurt Warner. Cool, let's roll. And so that's how I met Kurt, and our first meeting was, you probably won't say this publicly, but he just said, we'll give you the route, but if they're pressing you, just, convert. No problem. So I get there. First route, guy's on me. I'm 5'9". He's like 6'3" or whatever. Big corner. Just run right by him. And Kurt throws the ball. And so I reach back to catch it because, he underestimated my speed. So I run back to him. I said, hey, dude, don't be afraid to rip your blouse throwing that thing out there, okay? And just the look on his face was like, whoa. Told you I was kind of brass back then. So we got along great, and I stayed there for 3 years and was a practice spot guy. And I went to the Chiefs in between that time, and Marty Schottenheimer loved me because he's just like, you just get your ass kicked and just keep coming back for more, don't you? It's like, that's what you want me to do. So did that. And in between those times, I was going back to school to get a teaching degree. I was coaching high school football, just trying to figure out life. And then when I was 27, I got out of playing. 28, I got done playing. And, I applied for the FBI, went and worked for Nike, lived in California, went to Tucson. I was like everywhere. It was basically like I was 16 or 18, didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And I'm touring the world and working and living out of my car.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You were in Warner's wedding, correct?
I was at it. Yes, I was at his wedding. Yeah, I was supposed to be in it, but I was late to it. So, not late to the actual wedding, but I was late I was doing stuff. So I'm like, I can't do it. Yeah. So I was
Life
there,
happened. Right.
but life happens. So I come back home after about, I don't know, a year of just being a freaking vagabond, just really, I was kind of like a gypsy. And I applied for the FBI and I did the first interview. Then I did the second interview. Then I did a third interview in Kansas City. And then the fourth interview was going to take me to Langley. And that's when it's go time. And I get a call from this guy named Vern Thompson. And he was coaching this team called the Lincoln Lightning. And he goes, Jose, Vern Thompson, Lincoln Lightning. He goes, I heard from John Gregory, who was my coach at Iowa, that you're faster than a hiccup. And I was like, well, I guess, I don't know. And he goes, well, I want you to come play. We're starting a team. I'm like, I'd rather coach. And he's like, well, let's talk about it. So he hired me as the offensive coordinator. And that was going really well. The first 4 games, I think we're 3-1 and we go into the 5th game and we had this player on our team named Leroy Cleveland. And I tell you what, if you put his brain in a bird, it'd probably fly backwards. This guy was just he was from Central Florida, just not very smart. And it was so bad to where we thought his name was Goddammit Leroy. Really, that's what coach would address him as all the time. And so anyway, he's like, you're going to be the death of me, Leroy. Blah, blah, blah. We laugh and we're running a practice one day, getting ready for a game. And he was supposed to run a corner route and he runs the post and we knew it. And Goddammit, Leroy. And he fell to the ground. And we thought he was joking, right? Literally, we thought, he wasn't that type of guy to joke like that, but we figured, he developed a sense of humor with this guy. He freaking had a heart attack. Wow. And so because we went and played the game, we won. And then he was in the hospital. He came back and the wife came in. You know how our wives are. And she sat down and there were 2 owners, me, the wife, and Vern. And she goes, he's out. He's the new head coach. Got up, they walked out, and I was like, oh, God, I'm 29 years old, and I'm a head coach of an indoor football team. And life just kind of went 0 to 60, and we went 10-4. I got, coach of the year. We won our division, and things are happening. And I coached in Lincoln for 6 years, and the team folded. Then I went to Sioux City, and I coached there for 2 years. And one of those teams featured Fred Jackson that played with the Bills. And get this, Fred Jackson rushed for 1,800 yards in indoor football. Yeah, I mean, that's just ridiculous.
On a 50-yard field, right?
On a 50-yard field.
Yeah, that's a lot of yards.
15 yards. And here's the funny part is I had a quarterback that threw for 3,000 yards and 52 touchdowns. So we were balanced. And also on that team was, as we talked about earlier, Willie Simmons. And so that's where that connection goes. So I coached there. And then my boys were born in 2006. And for those who have never met my boys, I've heard that story. They were micro preemies. Which means they were extremely premature. Like the regular gestation for a baby is 40 weeks. Twins is 37 weeks. And my boys were born at 23 weeks one day.
Wow.
1 pound, 3 ounces apiece. And so at that point in time, I felt it was probably better for me to stay away from the game and be with my family. And I just I knew if it was my dad, that would never happen. It would be like, you better get better. You better not be sick, And, but I wanted to be, the dad that I didn't have and always wanted. And so I literally stepped away from football, 2007, 8, and 9. I mean, it was really spotty. Like I talked to people and stuff like that. Cause football's like the mob, you get out and it pulls you back in. So I couldn't really get out of it. And I was working full time. And then just out of the blue, and I'm backing up because I missed some things in there. I did an internship at the time in 2002 with the Green Bay Packers. And that's where I know Mark Lillibridge from, outside of playing with Lillibridge with the Barnstormers. But then I did an internship with the Vikings in 2005. So I had some of those backgrounds and some of those people there. And then they would call and say, well, hey, what are you doing now? Well, I'm doing the dad thing, and well, hey, why don't you go down to Western Missouri and check out this guy and just, how we write it up, just go ahead and do it and keep your receipts and whatever. So I'm like, okay, and you go down there and you're in it, you're a scout, you're doing the thing. And then that's going on for a couple of years. And we moved to Wisconsin. That's what happens. You marry a Wisconsin girl and you say those 3 little words, I give up, and you end up home in Wisconsin. And so we're here. And Reggie McKenzie, who works with the Dolphins now, he was with me in Green Bay. He calls up the coach at UWL and he goes, hey, there's a really good coach there that, you should, get on your staff. I didn't know this. And so this coach calls me. I don't know who he is. We're literally moving in, like boxes and stuff coming in, people moving stuff. He calls me on my cell and I'm thinking, I don't know anybody here. And he's like, hey, my name's Larry Terry and blah, 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 and Reggie McKenzie. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't you come down and we can talk about a job? And I'm thinking, oh, I don't have a job, because I just moved here. My wife works for Mayo. I mean, she's an orthopedist. So, I mean, so she's like, yeah, go ahead and do that. I come down there. I'm in the meeting room. I'm the running backs coach. What? And so I'm coaching there. I coached there for a couple of years. And then he got released, and then the new coach was kind of different. So I kind of stepped away from there. I went back and I assisted with some indoor teams, did some consulting. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm like, why am I killing myself here? Going here, there. And I didn't really know what to do. And then Craig Redd, the illustrious co-founder, was working this All-American Bowl, down in, I know you guys probably know it, but it was down in, I want to say it was Huntsville. Is that right? No.
Oh, that's the one. Oh, yeah.
It was right down outside of Birmingham. Hoover. There it was, Hoover. Right. And so he knows I'm like chomping at the bit to do something. So Craig's like, and I've known Craig since 1999, when he was an agent. So he's like, hey, why don't you come down and, check it out. Just be a guy, And I'm like, all right, great. So you fly down and, I I'm driving and I pull up, and right as I get there, people are running out and they grab my luggage. I'm like, oh, it's like that. And they go, you must be Jose. And I'm like, yeah. Well, Craig needs you. For what? I don't work. And so I'm working this bowl with him, not even knowing what's going on. And it is just a calamity. They're doing weigh-ins in the lobby. And and that was back in the day where it was stripped down to the draws and whatever. And these people are walking into the front lobby and looking at these guys. And it's not like it's a great hotel. It's like, when them budget ins. So it's like a little lobby and you got half naked dudes with people checking in. So you're smelling ass and luggage, and it's just not a good scene. And so there's scouts there, and I'm like, oh, okay. And there's like 5, and all of them look like they're in high school. And I was like, oh, okay. And, they're doing all this measurements. And so then they're like, okay, everybody, let's go eat. I'm like, okay. And they got hot dogs and chips. And I was like, oh, God, what is this? And so I'm trying to get filled in with everything. And the old guy that was running it was, okay, well, I need you to do this. And I said, sir, I don't work for you. I'm here just to hang out. And so I'm trying to help, and Craig's like, thanks, whatever. We go to practice. It's these coaches, and they're standing around. These guys are full bullet, helmet, everything, and they're standing around. There's no, well, you go here, and I'm like, where's the practice at? And they were on a school bus, so everyone's, with the pads in the lap and, bunched all together. I mean, and we get back, and we're getting ready to play the game, and the old guy goes home. Gone, just vamps, like, where'd the guy go? And he's like, you guys got it. And he took off. And this game was just an abomination. They had these officials, with the ref jerseys that looked like a muffin top because it didn't fit. And he was just a guy that was somebody's friends. And, oh, I think he was offside, and and I shouldn't say this, but you're like in the South, I'm sorry, but it was, and I think, like Riffer T. Justice is out there reffing this game. And so it was just horrible. And so I'm a note taker guy, and I'm sitting at the airport with Craig. Notes. I mean, like, I have a notebook and it's like 20 pages of just, and I go hand it to him and I go, well, if you ever do this again, you need to do this because, and so Craig's like, well, if you think you got the answers, why don't you start your own game? I got a plane ride. Let me try to figure this out. And about 3 hours sitting in the damn plane, birthed CGS. And, I took my notes, and I didn't really know what I was going to get into with it because you see the games all the time. I mean, like when we were out, and I don't know how old you are, Roderick. I mean, I know how old Neil is, but back when we came out, it was the Senior, the Shrine, and the Blue Gray. That was it. Yep. That was it. And so I saw those games, but you don't really know the makeup of it. And then I just got through probably the worst bowl game in America. So I knew what I didn't want to be. And so, I started doing CGS, and I figured, well, we got to because I figured it was a chance for me to coach, show everybody I can coach because I've coached for years, and I get the players, you're recruiting and you're trying to raise sponsorships and you're doing this and you're getting the coaches and, you're doing all this, you're getting the hotel deals. And I learned a lot about hotels because I was like, oh, you got to do this. Oh, well, I didn't know you had to do this. And you learned a lot about the field and, oh, I need insurance. Oh, what do you mean? And so you're learning all this stuff on the run. You're painting the bus as it's rolling. You truly are. And we get there. And I mean, that's where I first met Neil. And I said, if we get 8 NFL teams here, I'd be so happy. We got 22. And we weren't even ready for it. And I was like, I mean, I'm running, carrying tables and chairs and it was nuts.
What year was the first CGS?
2015.
I remember that hotel. That was that was not much of a step up from the one you already described.
I think that hotel even had like the cutouts, on the ground, with the tape. Didn't
it have like a pond in the lobby or something weird? I mean, it was amazing.
My God. It was
we're like in the shadows of Six Flags in Dallas and all that stuff. But
you're great. You walk out at the hotel and there's a psst, over here guy standing there, I mean, it was just shady. And, and I'm trying to do what I think the other bowls are doing. So we take them bowling. We got the gala. We're doing the press stuff, and then we're prepping for the game. And this team's practicing, and that team is practicing, and I'm not doing any of it. I'm just holding it all together. I mean, I didn't coach a soul. And about Thursday, Craig's daughter, Raina, gets sick, so he has to go home. So now it's just me, and I'm like, oh God. And so between getting that together, and then it was the day before the game, and then we're getting the game, and all these people, and at the end of the day, we had 15 guys to the combine. We had 10 guys drafted, and everybody says it's a success.
Oh, yeah.
Except for me. I was the most miserable person in the world. I mean, you can ask my wife. I mean, I'm glad I drove, and I damn near almost drove myself into a freaking bridge. I mean, if I was on a plane, I'd have jumped off of it. I was just that distraught over it and the main reason why I was distraught, outside the fact that I spent a crap ton of money, which is why when we were talking earlier and I said, I know what it takes to do this, and I'm doing it at a smaller scale. I know they're not in the black. I just know they're not. Right. But what killed me the most was I did nothing different than the top games. Nothing, except for it's just me. I copied the Senior Bowl and the Shrine, except for I paid for it. That's it. That's all I did. And it frustrated me to the hilt, because I always live on a motto of everybody wants to be number one, right? But nobody wants to be first.
I say it all the time, Jose. But you're the first one to say it. It's true.
And I wasn't first. I was trying to copy somebody, and it just pissed me off. And I'm like, God, I'm just so stupid. Wasted money, wasted time, but the result was good. So I knew I had something, but I wanted to, if I was going to fail at it, then I'm going to fail at it my way. I'm not going to fail at it doing what somebody else does, because that's what they do. And so we just revamped the whole thing, because we had players there that I couldn't relate to. I wasn't drafted. Nobody was sought after me. I went through the hard way. So those were the guys that I wanted, were the guys that were like me, that I can say, hey, this is what I did. This is what happened. So we started getting the groups. We started charging guys. I was getting different sponsors. We did more informative things, seminars. The interviews are what got me, because it was so unstructured the first time. And I'm thinking, God, this is a pain in the butt. It was horrible. The scouts loved it because they weren't timed. And then I was like, oh, so they want more time with the players. And then to come figure out that they never stayed for the game. And I'm like, well, why are we doing that? It doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of the things, and this is why when we talked off camera, where the NFL is mad at me, because I figured this out. They don't care about these games. I mean, think about all the career games you guys played in. And you're going to step up to the NFL. Is one more game going to put you over the top or kill you? No. And especially with guys you don't know, in a playbook you never worked on, in a place you aren't even familiar with. So we wiped all that stuff out, and then it started doing this. We went from, oh, another bowl game, okay, to, are you guys coming back? Okay, that's good. Hey, I'm glad you guys are coming back to, okay, well, CGS is on this docket here now, and you're on the NFL calendar, and you need to do this. I mean, it just started, I parlayed a hobby into a business. Right. And then it started getting really big, and we were able to do things and experiment with things, and people not even know that we didn't know what we were doing. Trying things out. And if it worked, we kept it. If it didn't, then we just chalked it up. And that's the part that I love the most about it, is that this event every year has changed, even if it's just slightly, something different that we do. And I got people all the time that say, hey, you should run a CGS here, or can I? No, you can't, because number one, the timing of it, you only get a few weeks in January to actually get your stuff right. And secondly, I won't say the name, but a very famous agent, lucrative agent, wanted to buy CGS. And I won't say who it is or was, but they did their due diligence. I did the whole, and I wasn't really like interested in selling it. I was more interested in what they thought it was worth.
Yeah.
And I was really shocked with what I thought what he told me. I was like, oh, okay, we might have to rethink this here. But came down and witnessed it, and I was very quiet about all of it. And he came back and told me, this is effing phenomenal, but I'm not going to buy this thing. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It's like a pat on the back, smack on the head all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? He goes, it's phenomenal because I've stepped into your brain and I see everything there's things, because he's, older guy, and he goes, they don't do this at other games. They don't do this. And he goes, the reason why I'm not going to buy it is a lot of reasons, but the main reasons, number one, I would have to hire you. So I'm going to give you a lot of money, and now I'm going to pay you some more to run something you already do, which is not really good business sense.
Right.
And secondly, say I don't hire you, it's going to suffer because you built all these connections. All these scouts know you, the agents know you, they trust you. You've done a good job with this. And third, and most importantly, it's too much effing work.
Yeah,
you work this thing. And I was kind of shocked. So I'm thinking, man, I pigeonholed myself into this business, even if I wanted to sell it or not. And so since then, we've just always grown it. And it's always been that way. We added the documentaries. We've added, pro free agents. We've added CGSU. We've added high school girls flag football. We're going to add a coaching clinic. We're going to continue to add stuff because we can. And it's not even me running it. Rod Newhouse who's on our board as well. He does this financial thing. I don't have anything to do with that. Craig Red, co-founder. He has Red Sports Group. He's an advisor. I don't have anything to do with that. All I do is I provide the platform. And I grew from being a coach to an ops person to a networker. Because if you look at this, and Neil, you've been there for day one, what do? All I do is connect people.
Yeah.
Players to scouts, scouts to players, players to agents, agents to scouts, vendors to scouts, vendors to agents, parents to scouts, everything is just connecting. And I love it. I love the mass chaos that goes on in that lobby. I do. I mean, it's great to feel that energy. It's like Wall Street meets the Compton swap meet. It is just blam, and I love it. I love the fact that people feel that they can come there, be comfortable, be safe, and be able to get business done, be able to get looked at, be able to build things, and the relationships and things you build. A perfect example was our sponsor with KT Tape, which unfortunately we don't have anymore because he's not there, but they were a great sponsor. And he says, I love coming here because you never know who you're going to meet. And sure enough, like one of the first years, he put KT Tape on a Patriot Scout's shoulder. And he goes, oh my God, this is great. He goes, I'll send you a case. He goes, well, send it in Patriot Blue. And, that was the joke. So he sends it. And you remember Tom Brady with the blue tape on his thumb when he jacked his thumb up? That was KT Tape. They never had it before. That picture of his thumb still hangs up at KT Tape. I introduced him to our trainers, and our trainer is Baylor Scott and White. And the main lady who does it, she is the trainer for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. KT Tape is the only one at that time that made that nude tape, the skin color tape. So they met, and then they partnered. And the gal that was on there was part of the Rockettes. And so she told the lady there about this new tape. Now he's like the sponsor of this dance coalition. And he goes, and they upped their sponsorship. Like here's a sponsorship renewal. And they gave me a check and another check. And I'm like, whoa, what is this? Oh, wait a minute. Is this like, are we doubling up? What are we doing? What is this? And they go, this is just a thank you because we built their business up. And he told me that story, and I was like, wow. And that's just one story of millions that go on there. I mean, there were my sons, like I said, there were micro preemies, 15% chance of survival. And our first son, his name is Jeremiah. We named after Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. Mm-hmm. And so one year I'm sitting there and I try to eat breakfast with different groups, and I'm sitting there and there's a linebacker table, and this guy on his forearm has Jeremiah 29:11, and we started talking, and he saying what it means to him, and the next thing you know, both of us are crying, and then the guy coming from the other table sees us, and he's got it tattooed on his arm, and all three of us are crying because of what it meant to us, and you can't buy that experience, and so outside the football's easy. Football's real easy. You go get talented kids, you go bring the scouts, they got jobs, kids have wants, boom, you do that. But I'm telling you, it is the relationships and things over the years that we've built, and we've lost people. Unfortunately, you lose a Noel Scarlett, who is a character of all time. You're never going to meet anybody like Noel Scarlett. You lose Denton Bardo, who was a friend, an adversary across the field, and then a friend in the later part of life as well. And then you lose a Carla Turner, who was the first CGS mom.
And for clarification, they've passed away. They're not no longer with CGS.
Right.
They've caught on their reward.
And that's something you just never plan for. You start a business or you do anything or you play on a team or something, you're just like, well, this is how it's always going to be, and they turn into your family, and just like regular families, you lose people. And that's, I'm getting choked up about it now. It's just, that's what it means to me.
Yeah. That's the beauty again of the CGS is it is an intimate game. Again, you talk about the big ones, and coming to CGS, I've been to CGS as a scout with the Falcons. I've also been there on the outside where I got to kind of sit back and watch it. It's a really intimate game, intimate setting with interviews. And as you go through your origin stories, you talk through how CGS has evolved. I mean, you talk about the adaptability of, again, continuing to take the best portions and getting the feedback. You're nimble enough. The way you run it, you're nimble enough where, hey, we had 4 or 5 teams suggest this. That probably means at least 4 or 5 others would also like to see this. Hey, let's evolve. Let's change. We saw it last year with, again, all of a sudden the NFL decides to change some rules or mandate different things. And again, CGS is still happening. It happened last year, happened this year, and is probably as strong as ever. It's going to continue to evolve. It doesn't have to be keeping up with the Joneses, with the East, West, and Senior Bowl. They're going to do their thing. They're going to be the big two, but you're going to continue to evolve to be the best CGS, which is, again, I've been to multiple of these smaller all-star games. CGS is run, second to none, and you can see elements that the big two are absolutely stealing from you. Got to be a feather in that.
The best compliment ever. A scout came up. I won't reveal his name as well, but he said, "Yeah, I talked to Jim Nagy over at the Senior, and he's like, hey, what do you think we can do better, with this interview process?" And the scout goes, I told him, I don't know. Once you go to CGS, they seem to have it figured out. And I was like, what? You said that to him? He goes, absolutely. I said it to him, and his jaw just about dropped. And we've been on the phone, me and Jim, and he asked me about things. And during COVID was a real unique time for me as well, too, because I was called by the NFL and they asked me to run the game because I wasn't going to. Remember, Neil, we were like, hey, we're not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. My wife is in medical field. So it was, she's like, no, you're not going to do it. You're going to get people sick. It's not safe and blah, 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 and so I was really, for throwing it together, I don't want to say last minute because we did have about 2 months to plan, maybe a month and a half to plan. But they called, and I was told the reason why they called is because I'm an owner. Jim, Galco, all those guys are employees. I own. The Tropical wasn't probably suited to do it, and I think he kind of backed out of that as well too. And then I can't remember. I think the Hula was out as well too, and I think the PA was done too. PA did interviews or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We did full blown. This is what we're doing, masked it, and the NFL teams. I will say this, were overly generous with what they did for us, and they didn't have to. And I it was funny because one of the scouts said, "Shoot, you could have asked for a pony and got it." And they were great, but no, and it's funny how you say the big two. They're not my competition.
No, that's
The Hula isn't my competition.
That's an awareness. That's part of what makes the CGS so good.
The Tropical isn't my competition.
Right.
The FCS, none of those guys are my competition. You know who my competition is? You know who I look at and aspire to be? The Combine.
The Combine.
That's who we aspire to be.
We're bringing in comparable numbers. I mean, total players coming in through. Absolutely.
And anybody who's looking at this looking at what they do and what we do, very similar.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. That's who we compete with. Not that we can ever beat them or best them, but we are Combine South. I mean, and
Combine and pads.
And there you go. And why do you think, and people, they won't admit it, I was told this, that they would deny it if asked, but why do you think Jerry Jones wants to bring the Combine there so bad?
Yeah.
Because they see it every year.
Yep.
They see it every year. I mean, we're doing Combine-like drills, less the testing, and we get the interviews set up. Hell, for what I think it was 2 years in a row, we did medical testing. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why we stopped doing medical testing is that the teams are doing it on their own. They just like getting it from us,
right.
Like, holy crap. I mean, so once again, a lot of things that we were first in doing medical testing and those things. So they saw that. The Cowboys organization saw that. Why do you think they send 12 people? Is because it's like, wow, we can go there and ask them, like you said, Roddick, we can go there and ask them to do something, and it might be today, it might be next year, but they will get it done because they're flexible and they're nimble. And I get scouts all the time, so they'll always come here because you guys haven't figured out your big time yet, and you don't big time us.
No question. I mean, in the name of, again, becoming like the Combine, it was, again, maybe 10, 15 years ago, putting the Combine on TV seemed like a crazy concept. Now it's primetime TV. It sounds like the CGS, again, not that they're going to be primetime TV, but TV opportunities, streaming opportunities.
Right.
Talk about that next step that you guys are taking this year that you're really excited about.
Yes. One of our board members and our film guys, Rush Olson, they own Mint Farm, which does our documentary. They used to work for the Dallas Stars, and the Dallas Stars partnered with the Anaheim Ducks to make a streaming network, Victory Plus. You can go on there. It's free. They encourage people to do it. But they need content because they're not just going to do it during hockey season. They thought that would be silly, so they want to make it a broad spectrum. And what better spectrum to have? Number one, football, number one sport in the country, world, and it's right in their backyard. So now they got a streaming. They're streaming an event that's in the number one sport that's in their backyard with somebody who used to work for them. So I mean, everything just lined up. So now we're going to be able to broadcast CGS all year round. So, just I was saying earlier, Neil, anybody wants to get involved with CGS, any companies want to get involved with CGS, I don't need to make a deck, go to Victory Plus. You can see exactly what we do. No other event is going to give you a peek behind the curtain. And we do, everything we do. And I was asked before, do I worry about somebody copying what we do? No, I don't. I really, really don't, because I don't want to say it's not copyable. It's just a matter of, it took me this long to get to this point. I don't think anybody's going to start at the same point once they start. Then the only way you're going to do that is a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to do that, then that's fine. But I don't see that happening because people, and Neil, better than most, NFL is slow to change.
Of course.
And nobody wants to buck that system.
Yep.
Nobody wants to be the outlier. And I've been an outlier since probably the second year of CGS. And now, as I was saying offline, the whole last year and the changes, and even Jim Nagy would say, yeah, they made those rules for CGS. Absolutely they did.
Oh, they did. Absolutely.
And do I feel targeted?
Makes me so angry. You know what
Mostly.
I'm saying? Makes me so angry. But what are you gonna do?
I've gotten over it for
Yeah.
the simple fact of I've taken it as a compliment that you feel threatened
Mm-hmm.
by me enough to create these bogus rules and things, and they are bogus because this is why I know they're bogus. I remember probably about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, they were saying, well, CGS goes against the NFL bylaws on All-Star games. So I said, sure, okay. Can you send me the copy of that page in the bylaws? Yeah. And that's what started them MFing me and going, okay, you're going to be that way. We're going to be this way.
Yep.
And that's why we have these written rules now. And I don't mind complying with the rules. I don't. I mean, the rules are there in place for a reason. Totally understand. However,
Most of the time they are.
most of the time they are. However, I've been doing this going on 11 years. It'll be 11 years here in a week or so. I have yet to see Troy Vincent down there. I have yet to see Roman Oben down there. I have yet to see Ken Fiore down there. And those ones are on the email. Those are the ones that are saying, hey, I need to do this. And I'm not at odds with them. Sure, great. But number one, come down and make sure I'm doing those things, which they haven't. Number two, even if I'm not doing those things, what are you going to do? You can't find me. Number three, you've already tried to take scouts away by telling them, and that's the story. The word was if you went to CGS, they would take draft picks away from teams. And the agents got a hold of that. Everybody got a hold of that. And I was working with the XFL at that time. So I'm like, screw it. I'll just do this for the XFL.
Right.
Because I knew that I would see a lot of sun hats and plain T-shirts with guys saying that, yeah, exactly. And I won't, like I said, unnamed teams when I say this. We won't be there, but we'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me know when it is, and I'll just drive by.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and so this was getting out because I told Ken Fiore and those guys, I said, no, I'm not going to abide by your rules. You don't pay for me. You don't own me. You can't do this. And so that's when the word came out. And then I got a call from the Jets. You're going to get a call from the NFL. Then I got a call from the Colts and the Bears and the Chargers and the Niners, all telling me the same message. They're going to be calling you. Okay. And then I get on the phone and the tone changes. How can we work this out? How can we partner? Whoa. You're ready just to throw me underneath the bus. You're ready to put me in a hole and throw the hole away. And now you want to be all nice to me now because your teams basically told you what you can do with that rule because you don't control their job. And you guys tend to forget that the owners pay your bill.
Mm-hmm.
And if the owners know that you're going to get fined for not letting your scouts do their job at an event that is helping them, oh yeah. And trust me, and I said, here's the deal. I'll compromise because that's what relationships do. You go from commitment, the C word commitment, to the C word compromise. I'll do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not going to do elemental P. So you need to change that rule. And that's what they did. And that's what we do. And that's how come we're officially sanctioned, with the NFL. And all the rest of these guys, and we all know the rest of the bowls, so I don't need to say them, except for the top two. I leave the top two alone because they're NFL events. They are. But all the rest of them, and with all due their respect, they fall in line because they think they have to. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Do what you have to do. But that's why I say they're not my competition. The top two aren't my competition. They just aren't. They're going to get those guys. And the other ones aren't because they're stepping in line and trying to be like the top two. And that's what I'm saying when I say I don't compete with them, not because I'm better. No, I'm not trying to step in line. I'm trying to do something totally different and that you can't compare it to. And like I said, the combine, we want to model that. But like you said, in pads and be as user-friendly. And I love the lobby. I love the connection. I love that chaos. I love it when you can't hear yourself think when I'm talking to you like 2 feet away, Neil. It's like, oh my God, I love that. Now we've arrived because evidently we're probably a place to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you're the place to be for scouts and you're an NFL event. But again, all of it comes back to players. Teams aren't coming if you don't get players.
True.
Teams aren't coming if you don't have good players that they're genuinely interested in. And you've done your small school event in the past. You have your free agent event, but it's really about those draftable guys, the 2025 draft class. And there's always that, tier of players, the unknowns, the hidden gems, the small school guys. So let's talk about players. Who are some guys in this year's 2025 CGS you're really excited about having down there?
I'm excited about all of them. That's not fair. I mean, they're just how can I say this? It's like there were 400 undrafted free agents last year, and CGS had 136 of them.
Oh, wow.
And I had a scout tell me, he goes, "You guys are the best kept secret to go get late round undrafted free agents." And I'm looking at the board now, and if I say one name, then another one's going to, it's just hard because I enjoy it. I'll start with the quarterbacks because that's a little bit easier.
It's the number one position, right?
It's the number one position. But we knew out of all the positions that we get at CGS, we'll probably ever get a quarterback drafted just because that's how the game's going.
Yep.
But I think we got some good ones. I don't know if they're going to get drafted, but I like their games. The first one is Tyler Huff of Jacksonville State. I think he's a good ball player. They say he's undersized, 6'1", but you got Brock Purdy. They just played a hell of a ball game last night. So Tyler Huff, Jacksonville State, Cole Snyder from Eastern Michigan, I think is solid. Really good. And when I say solid guys, these guys can go to camps and be camp arms. They can go and run a practice team. And who knows? Maybe they Tony Romo the thing. Who knows?
If they can if they can at least start by doing that, again, that's the first bar you have to get over.
Exactly. Connor Watkins from Villanova, athletic kid. I like his size. He's 6'3", 225. This kid's like a right-handed version of Tim Tebow. Just athletic, throws the ball well, bull. He can run.
Depending on who you are, that's either a compliment or, you kind of put some guys down. So.
Hey, Tim Tebow was probably one of the best college quarterbacks, football players in history. This kid does pretty well. We just picked up Seth Morgan from New Hampshire, who I think is another solid kid. And if you look at the tone of these kids, mid-major, group of 5 kids that have great numbers, and the last one is, I'm going to probably butcher his name, but his name is Tyler Elgersma, and he's from Lorelei in Canada, 6'6", 212. And this kid is athletic. This kid will probably be a top 3 draft pick in Canada.
All right.
Easily. I'm excited to see him. I saw him on tape, but Canadian tape, watching that is a lot different than watching college tape. To me, it just seems like it's a click slower.
Mm-hmm.
And our quarterbacks are going to be that way every year. Like we had Rocky Lombardi last year, who I think did a great job at Northern Illinois. And I remember I had a scout. He said, what'd you like about Rocky? I said, he's got potential because he's still that much behind. And all our quarterbacks are that way just because that's how college football works. Yeah. When I'm thinking he should throw the ball, it's throw it, click, go. And then that's when they throw it. So, but I like those 5. We may add one more. I don't know yet. But we got to get to the beefy guys. I love by line. We have, and probably the most out of any all-star game in the country, we have 36 offensive linemen. I know, love it.
Again, you go quarterback and you look at the way the league's going, it's trenches.
Yes.
You throw your wide receivers in there. Again, they're getting drafted more and more with the way the offensive game goes. But again, you look at these successful franchises, the trenches, and again, I would venture to say those, especially guards, developmental tackles, maybe, and those are the guys that you're going to get late day 3 to priority UDFA, stick them on a practice squad. Like you said, that's where you live. So who are some of those the offensive linemen?
But before we go further, for those people saying 5 quarterbacks, you have 3 and 2. The CGS, talk about, Jose, how our format's different from the traditional All-Star game.
Okay, our practices are different since we run our game differently. Our practices are different, and we try to get our quarterbacks as many reps as possible. Um, we're not standing around. We're not looking at you know, the film. We're not trying to learn a play. Everything's carded. So if you can read a card, you can't come to CGS. I mean, that's simple. But our quarterbacks, what we do is, we do our one-on-ones, we do our 7-on-7s, and it's all in a rotation. So with an odd number of quarterbacks, think about this. I mean, I've never played quarterback before, but if you're playing quarterback and you're looking at the field, and I'll do it this way. You start here. So you'll go left, right, out, left or right, left, out. So you're doing both sides. You're going to throw left, and then you're going to switch over. You're going to throw to the right side. Then you're going to take a break. So you're always rotating, which gives you, think about quarterbacks. These guys are all starters. They're all starters. So they're used to taking every rep. This is and this is the other reason why we do it too. We are training these kids because I tell them this in my opening orientation. All you guys are starters. We are training you right now for training camp. Yeah. You might get one rep, but you better make it your best rep. No. But with the quarterbacks are different because since the position is so high value, they got to see these guys throw. Nobody wants to see a quarterback scramble. They have to be able to throw, and so we want to get them comfortable first. To be able to get loose. And then when we do our 7-on-7s, we rotate them in and out that way so they can throw both sides of the field at once. But we don't need a lot of quarterbacks. We did that in the past, and I think it really kind of hurt our game because not a lot of kids got the reps that they should have. And so now, we're trying to make sure they throw their arm off. And it's helped the last few years when we've had lesser quarterbacks to be able to do that because they've gotten to camps. We had a kid last year in our small school event, or I shouldn't say small school, I guess it was, but he was a smaller school kid. He ended up going to the Cowboys and, going to their rookie camp and then to OTA, and just because they saw him throw so much, so that's our plan with that. But getting back to these linemen, wow, there's just a lot of wow. I mean, you got Victor Scafeld from Cal through Temple, 6'7", and he's 305. We got a North Dakota State kid who's going to be playing in that championship game, and that's a unique dynamic to go and play the game and then come right down the street.
Get some extra bonus points with scouts when you're showing up, right off the championship game.
Mason Miller from North Dakota State, he's 6'7", 305. A lot of small school kids with size. Alex Rasmussen, St. Thomas, which I guess is their FBS now. They used to be D3, but he's 6'7", 319. Marshall Foreigner from Minnesota State, 6'7", 310. We have Gaylord Mincy from Kentucky. He's 6'6", 330. We got a kid from Charlotte, Johnny Hazard, and he's 6'6", 315. We got my alma mater. I got to talk about South Dakota because we went.
Have to. That's a good year this year.
Heck yeah. They flipped our record from when I was there. I mean, shoot, I think they lost 4 games this year. I think we won 4 games when I was there. But I'm serious. You think I'm joking? We were not very good. But we got the center there, Joey Lombard, and he's 6'5", 305. He plays center guard. And that's the other thing too. We have a all Big 12 lineman, Michael Ford Jr. out of Kansas. He's center. Yeah, that guy's going to be worth the price of admission. Kansas has given us probably, and that's a connection that I have with Scott Aligo, and I know you probably know Scott, and then Lance Leipold. I've known Lance Leipold since 1998, and so we always got that good, cross, however you want to call it, say cross communication of players. We have an Iowa center, Tyler Elksbury. Excuse my glasses here, but he's 6'5", 315. It's just and the list goes on and on and on and on, guys. And I apologize for guys if I miss you, but I'm excited about all these guys because I can tell you right now, every single last one of those guys will get a UDFA.
Yeah.
every single last one
Well,
of them.
again,
Because
you just as you rattle off names, you're talking big schools. Again, Iowa, you get offensive linemen from there every year. North Dakota State, again, getting South Dakota. Again, actually, my dad's alma mater. He played just a couple of years before you there at in the
wow.
Dakota Dome. So
Oh wow.
really fun going back there. But you're talking just the heights and weights. It sounds like an NFL, offensive line room. You've got guys that look the part. Again, that's always one of those things. You get to these all-star games, like, all right, who looks the part? Who stands out? Who doesn't look like they belong here? Again, there's always going to be a few of those guys, and then they just turn around and wow you athletically. Oh, that's why he is here. But
Well,
again, just
that's
with this offensive line group, if you start by looking the part, that's your first step, and you're going to do well from there.
Well, we have a guard from Emporia State who's 6'5", 310. I mean, now you're talking D2 now.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the criteria for us to look at guys. And yes, I mean, I think the big schools help, but we got a kid from Brown who's, I mean, obviously he shouldn't blow an assignment. I mean, that's a smart kid, but he's an all-conference lineman out of there, and he's 6'5", 315. So we've cookie cuttered the height. Just the school has changed. And that's what I'm saying. I don't see a guy on this list that I'm like, oh, we got him, as opposed to, oh, okay. And once teams see all this, they want to see those one-on-ones, and that's where our one-on-ones have been gold for us, because we don't have to waste time in a practice to try to learn to play. I mean, we can take our time with this. We have the California center, Rush Reimer, and he's 6'5", 310. I mean, so I brag about our line. We do a really, really good job with both lines, offensive and defensive. And I got to brag about the receivers, though. It's really funny because
that's something a former receiver would do, is brag about the receivers. You have to do it, right?
Absolutely. But you got to look at it this way. We got a lot of big school kids that transferred up, and they had really good years wherever they were, and they transferred up. And
that whole transfer portal thing, that changed the trajectory for some guys.
It did. And not that they're bad. I think they're good. And so what we did was we took in consideration some of these kids that transferred, like we have a kid from Auburn. His name's Richard Lewis, and he transferred from Georgia State. And holy cow, at Georgia State, he was all planet. And then he goes to Auburn, and you're in the SEC. And I think he did well, but it wasn't the same numbers. But we know he has it in him. Yeah. I mean, and he's good size. You're talking, 5'10", 190, solid size. However, now you go to the FCS kids. Okay, we got Blaine Taylor from Abilene Christian. He's 6'5", 215, 72 receptions, 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And the list goes on and on of kids like that. The kid from, look right here, Bo Belquist from North Dakota. And he is 6'2", 190. And he had 62 catches for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. And you're like, holy cats. I mean, is anybody guarding you or what? And the list goes on of guys that are like that. I mean, looking right now, where's he at? Okay, the kid from Noah Coyne. Noah Coyne is an interesting kid. He's from Case Western Reserve University. Do you guys even know where that's at?
I coached there for 2 years.
Yeah. There you go. See, you got a guy from there. 6'4", 225, 69 receptions for 900 yards, 12 touchdowns.
Yeah. And actually had a bigger, I'm gonna brush it off on this one, had a bigger junior year and is planning, I believe, on working some tight end down there, if I am correct.
Yeah, we talked about that with the agent, and I just said, it's there for him to do whatever he needs to do.
Perfect.
I mean, and we don't. I mean, we had Tyrone Swoops, and the Diesel, or what was he? I can't remember if that was his nickname or whatever. But it was so funny. He was probably the most famous player that we've ever had. outside of Vince Papale's kid that drew like all this attention. And the reason why he came to CGS, and he had shrines, he had seniors, but he wanted to experiment with playing tight end. And we gave him that platform. And that's what I was explaining to the agent for Noah, is that we're never going to tell these kids no. This is going to be the biggest interview of your life. Why would you want to hold back some things and say, oh, no, I'm not going to do this here. This is the best place to do it. And if you fail, it's okay. It's okay. At least you try, and they know that. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of film on Noah. I mean, is throw up and bodied out. And I mean, he's a beast, man. I mean, Division III, there was no world beater DBs on Division III. I mean, he was killing people. But I haven't seen him line up at tight end. Mm-hmm. And I think that'll be a little bit of a challenge, but that's okay. I mean, they're going to.
The opportunity out there for him.
We had a kid last year, Colston Yankoff. Do you remember him, Neil? Yeah. Colston Yankoff. He was a 4-star quarterback at Idaho and went to Washington. And I think that Browning was there. So Browning had a couple years left, so he wasn't going to play. So he transferred to UCLA. And then DLR is there. So he's not going to play there. So they turned him into a running back. And I never forget the agent selling me on Colston Yankoff. Oh, he's telling me all these accolades. And he plays running back. He goes, okay. So I look him up, and he's got like 10 carries for like 118 yards. And I go, what are you doing here? And he goes, he is the best athlete I've ever seen, to be able to. And he played tight end, played running back, and his numbers are just dismal. So I'm like, okay. We're CGS. We can roll the dice on a kid like this. And he comes and he flat out balls out. And now he's on the 53 for the Commanders, who just made the playoffs. On the 53. He's not on the P squad. And 53 as a tight end. And he's the same size as Noah Coyne.
Yeah. Wow. As exciting as all these players are, Jose, and they are, and it's been a blast. We have a lot of aspiring scouts that listen in. And I want you to talk about CGSU because among all the innovations that we have, that's one of the ones that I'm most excited about, and also a little more invested in, perhaps. But tell us a little bit about CGSU. Tell us about who's going to be there, how many we're going to have, how the program works. Because all these people come to me all the time. How can I become an NFL scout? You got to come to Fort Worth, and sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. Tell us a little bit about the program, Jose.
I love that program. I'm very. It's close to my heart. It really, really is, because not only is it a brainchild of things, there's so many other people involved, like you, Neil, John Bonaventura, Michael Redelman, Gino Camilleri. All the guys are involved, and everybody gets involved. Craig gets involved because it's a 360 degree, 100% mentorship deal. I mean, for anybody who's looking at it for scouting, and this is the first question I asked them all the time. It's funny when you sit in that class, I go, okay, who here has played high school football? And I go to college football, and I go to pro football, and, you get a high school hand here, but no college and no pro. And I go, okay, who here has coached high school football? And you don't get no hands. Who's coached college football? You don't get any hands. And you go, who coached pro football? So I tell them, you're not going to dazzle me with what you think you know. You're just not. So stop. Let's just get to the base thing here. The days of watching film and chewing the sunflower seeds, that day is over. You have to understand what scouts are looking for, what teams are looking for, how to do that. And we're going to teach you that, but we're not only going to teach you that from 30,000 feet away. We're going to put you right there with the scout, with the team, and they can tell you.
Amen.
And that's the best thing that we can do, because all of us can sit there and tell them how to break down film and what to look for and da. And I had one of the kids from CGSU called me. He goes, hey, could you send us the roster so we can start breaking down the kids? And I said, absolutely not. That is not what this is for. I said, we're going to teach you to stand on the field like our scouts and spot scout these kids and be able to come up with some material in your head to say, hey, this kid is XYZ elemental P, put that down. I said, if you want to go to those other things and learn how to do that and sit in the classroom and do that, that's fine. We are putting you in the measurements. We're going to teach you how to measure properly. interviewing. We're going to put you with those teams and let them, show you the things that they ask, the questions and what they're doing, because that's what matters, and the relationships that are built there. Then you're going to go on the field and you're going to mingle with these guys. You're going to hear the agents and the scouts speak or not speak, depending on who the agent is, and see those interactions. Then you're going to be able to stand on the field and look at these players and be like, oh, okay, this guy snaps his hips pretty good. Okay, this guy uses his hands pretty good. Like, I remember what John Bonaventure was saying. You should watch for this and blah, 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 blah. And then if you want to go write something, then so be it. Go write something. That is not going to put you over the top. That's not where you wow people. You're going to wow people by working your butt off, being attentive, and listening. Because I tell these kids all the time, I've been doing this for 11 years. I've been to 2 NFL internships. And the reason why CGS to me, 2 scouts, is very good is because we don't overcoach those kids.
Mm-hmm.
We don't overcoach them. I don't disrespect any coach. I don't care what program you've been to, whether you're 0-12 or a 12-0 program, you're probably coached by a pretty solid coach. And I say solid because of circumstances. You may not have a great team, but you know your stuff, or you got a great team and you're mentoring kids. So why are we going to sit there and try to reprogram kids in 2 or 3 days? It's stupid. And the scouts, and you can admit this, you don't want to know what I know. You don't care what I know. You want to know what that kid knows. So why would we sit there and try to put the PlayStation controls on this kid and make him do something that he may not be good at doing? And so at the CGSU program, you're going to learn all this stuff. We had 4 kids hired in the last 2 years, and probably, I think it was 8 or 10 over the whole existence of the program, right. And not by design. And what I mean by not by design is we just did this to help kids understand that this is the life. And John Bonaventure does a great job of talking about the travel, talking about the accommodation, talking about you can discover the number 1 draft pick in the world, but guess what? No one's going to know about it. I mean, Fred Jackson. I took Fred Jackson to the Bills because I thought he was a player. Do I pop up in the Fred Jackson story? No. And so, like I said, it's very dear to me because we've gotten people to move on from it. We got people in the NFL. I think we got 4 people in the NFL. We got another 2 or 3 in the CFL. We've gotten kids in college jobs. We got a kid that right now he's the what is he, the recruiting coordinator, I think, for Air Force. It's and I've written letters of recommendations after letter of recommendation, and they are cookie cutter. They are cookie cutter. I tell kids all the time, get to know me so I can write you a good letter, because if I don't know you, it's not going to be a good letter. Absolutely. But I'm not opposed to doing it, but I love it. Neil goes in there and gives them a realistic view of the agent relationship to it. It's just a great program. I wish it could be bigger. I wish it could be more. We do what we do with what we can do. And what I mean by that is we can't accommodate everybody. Because I know there's going to be a few guys in there that I know that are a little older. And as you say, Neil, if you're too old to play, you're probably too old to scout at that point in time for starting late. However, they have to figure that out on their own. They have to understand it. And we give them that and say, hey, if you're 40 years old now and you've never scouted, chances are it's probably going to continue to be that way for a while. However, if you're going to do it as a hobby or something like that, we welcome you. And that's fine. But I'd rather deal with the younger guys that are in it. I think we have a kid from TCU. We have another kid that's from another smaller school. And right now I want to say there's 14 of those kids in there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good number. I think right now the tally is 115 scouts, which is probably all 32 teams right now, plus the Canadian teams, the UFL teams. They're going to work with all of them. And we want them to get that feel, because that's one thing that those scouting schools don't teach you. And I'm not afraid to say it. They just don't. They don't teach you how to network.
Well, then and to me, that's the most important aspect of getting a job in the league. And Roderick and I talk about this on this podcast all the time. You got to have a champion. You have someone who'll go to bat for you. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter if you can say all the buzzwords and you can say what you think about every player in the draft. You don't have that relationship.
I think
Finish. You're out.
I think that quarterback can layer the ball, and
Yeah,
I think he can do it. Come on, man.
I mean, if you listen to Jose for the last hour, he's great at building relationships. He's very relational, and that is critical if you want to work in a business that is so people-oriented as football is. End of story.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
without question. Well, Jose, as we wrap up here, again, getting a bow put on CGS in, again, a little over a week, we may even break some news on here. We're not we don't typically break news, but you've got a new opportunity coming up here, exciting, well-deserved, well-earned. What is going to be new for you in 2025?
I haven't signed my offer letter yet, so no. But no, I like I said, I've been blessed to meet some great people, and one of my former players received a head coaching job at FBS, and he called me to be his general manager and director of player personnel, and it's Florida International University for Willie Simmons, and I'm excited, ecstatic, still kind of spinning, my head's still spinning with it because of how it happened, and that's this business.
That's this business.
That it could take months or minutes, and
Yep.
That one took minutes. And I like I said, I talked to Rod Newhouse, who's kind of pseudo my representation and mentor about all this stuff, and he just said, "You've been doing all these jobs your whole life anyway. Now they just finally put a title on it." And you have an opportunity. I mean, there's no blueprint for any of this that we're doing in FBS with the general manager. They want to put general manager on the title, but it's not quite that. It's a little bit of that and a lot of other things along with it. And let's be real. 2 years ago this job didn't exist, and it was unheard of. And now every school is jockeying up to get one.
Right.
So, I think the thing I'm going to bring there is, and Willie, if you talk to Willie Simmons, Coach Simmons, I should say, I'm the oldest person in the building. And he said, by design, because he wants the experience. He goes, you're the only one that's been in the chair. He goes, you have the relationships, the scouts, the agents, players, you can evaluate players, you built programs. I coached him, and he goes, some of the stuff you did 20 years ago, I still do today.
Uh-huh.
So absolutely. And he said there's going to be leaders in the building, the offensive, defensive, and special teams coordinators, and the head coach. But for damn sure, everybody's going to know the general manager is the leader in this building. Mm-hmm. So I'm very flattered by that, and it's humbling. And I don't know what kind of job I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it at 100 miles an hour and with my hair on fire, or what little hair I got left, and, make the best of it. And, Willie's a forward thinker and, a planner. And he's like, well, I just want to make sure you stay here. And, I know you're going to leave me for another job. And I said, Willie, I'm 54 years old. I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't have a 3-year plan. I have a now plan. And now plan is FIU, and this is where I'm going to be. And if someone wishes to make, a week ago, I was working the job that I'm working now during the day in CGS. So I don't want to say it's a fly by the seat of the pants, but the whole point is you just don't know who's watching. You just don't.
Well,
you truly
perfectly
don't.
With your story. Again, perfectly with your story. Again, you never know. Again, you get traded and get cut, and all of a sudden a new opportunity pops. Again, that 4.29, that 4.31, it's going to be the way you run the program. Again, a program in FIU that has NFL players, gets NFL talent through there. I can about assure everyone that it's going to be a scout-friendly visit when all 32 plus CFL plus UFL. Again, it's going to be a good spot, and again, be plenty to cut up on, and for everything on CGS, CGSAllstar.com. Jose, you're on. And I'd imagine your social media presence as a GM of FIU might have to go up a little bit, begrudgingly, perhaps. Maybe
guilty as charged.
I
am just not and I don't know. I have to get better at that. and it's not even a generational thing. It's just I am more of a people person than get on social media and
person, right?
I don't know.
And that's the funny thing about hearing about the brash 20-something 4-3 Jose after having met and interacted with you for the last couple of years is I don't see it. So again, I'm trying to picture, probably some sweet
Oh man.
shades, a real prime time look, and
Well,
running
no,
that fast.
I
But
wasn't. I
yeah,
was sneaky like that. I mean, like it's like my golf game. Like I'm sneaky long playing golf. I'll break out the 3-wood and crack that thing 275, and you're like, holy crap, And that's how speed was. It's like I looked quick, and you didn't know, and then like Adrian Lunsford, who's on our staff. I played with Adrian, and when I was with the Brahmas, Hines Ward and Joey Porter, they pulled Adrian to the side, and he's like, "Was Jose really that fast?" And Adrian, I mean, because I used to go out and warm up and do strides, 40-yard strides, and I get up
mhm.
on it a little bit, and I'm in my 50s. I don't need to make the team anymore. And Adrian goes, "Well, I don't know what he told you, but whatever it is grossly understated." And I was like, well, you
Yeah,
said that, and
and that's
when I say 429, that's fully automatic, so it's not on a handheld, so it's faster than that.
that's not just fast, Jose. That's the scouts like to say that's
Yeah.
not just
Well,
fast. That's
and
fast,
I
fast.
was, and you'll cringe or you'll go, no way. I was a better jumper than I was a sprinter. I
Yeah, spring again.
Yeah,
Well,
Spring
and I
go
never
together a
trained
lot of
for
times.
running. It's just something you did. And the jumping, oh
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, my back and my legs and my knees thank me for it every day now. I mean, I see the L on the
Yeah,
the barometer on the
yeah.
Weather Channel, and I'm like, oh, it's not going to be a great day, But I still hold it up together, and
Mm,
I'm still at playing weight. I'm still at 172 pounds.
right.
So, you know,
yeah. Well, I'm sure at some point we can find maybe that Olympic qualifying triple jump
do you
video
realize?
we
Do
can
you
get
realize how
put
old
up
I am?
on
There
the
was no
on
video of
his.
that.
That would be maybe they were cranking it, but there's
Yeah,
got to
there's
be
somebody with the
video of it
flip
out
book
there
that drew it and
somewhere.
saw me do that, but
Yeah, somebody needs to find it, post it up on X. He
oh
is
my
at
god.
Jose Jefferson 70. I don't know if you even knew your handle. It's at
Oh,
Jose Jefferson 70. That's where your X page is. At least it's a photo of you with CGS. So again, maybe
I
somebody
think
started it
somebody
for you.
did, and then
I
I
don't
took
know.
over the password, and I have to do a really good. I have to do a better job of that because I missed players a few years ago that were agents were going at me there, and then I ran into them at CGS and like, well, you didn't answer my thing. I answer my emails all the time. Not your email. I'm like, oh crap. So I promise I
That'll
will
be
get better or get a damn good GA to do that.
yeah. That'll be the next evolution in the Jose Jefferson timeline is a world renowned social media
Hey, I'm gonna change my
personality.
title.
How
I'm gonna
about that? You
I'm
take
gonna be the
how you
new Mr.
program to the next
305. How
level.
about that?
Yeah, that's perfect. I love it. Well, Jose, this has been fantastic. I know I'm excited for the CGS. Make sure you check it out. It's vertical.
Victory
What's the
Plus. Victory
where the
Plus.
TV is going to be? Victory Plus. Victory Plus. Make sure you check that out. Probably download the app. Sign up for the free service. Check out all the content on there. Check out CGS. I know Mike Riddleman will be updating.
Well,
If Craig's on social media, you just
we
type in
have,
CGS All
and
Star on there.
I bit the bullet and brought in a social media person. His name is Jay Noakes. I used to work with him with the Brahmas. Last year, he brought our social media following is like 3K or something if you're looking at 3,000 people or whatever. During the week of CGS, or the 4 days we were there, it jumped to 75,000 because of what he did. Now you get
There
Victory
you go.
Plus on and you do all this, and yeah. So I get it. We're an event. We're once a year. Nobody cares about us until late November, mid-November, late November, until the event's done, and then maybe a little bit afterwards until maybe the combine. But during those 4 months,
Yeah.
we have to be on top of it. And Jay has done a great job of keeping us, as you say, modern.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Modern. As the game goes modern, everything else has to keep up with it. So all you have to do out there, if you're listening to this podcast, you can probably find all things CGS, all things Jose out there, CGS. Allstar.com. They can find Jose on X. Of course, you can find Neil on X. He's at Inside the League. I'm
Agents,
at
before we
RightStep80.
go, make sure you go check out Agent Live 360. It is at agentlive360.com for everything you need for your agency, from players to coaches, managing profiles, tracking invoices, sending invoices, getting paid, keeping up on every element of your entire agency. Notification emails, file, folder, storage, ROI, transactions, invoices, calendar, contracts, teams, reps, everything all in one spot for you. That is Agent Live 360. Hop on, request a demo. Yours truly will hop on, walk you through it. I can promise you we will talk some football as well. Sign up now with code TRIAL90 for a 90-day, 3-month trial at just $10 a month for Agent Live 360. That's at agentlive360.com. Go check it out now.
Well, that does it for us here on our first episode of 2025. Excited to be back for another year, bringing you everything from inside the world of football and more specifically the world of scouting. At RightStep80V, at Inside the League, that is where you need to go. Follow, like, and of course, leave us those notes and comments. What do you want to hear about in the future? Maybe more specifically, who do you want to hear from in the future? Exciting episodes coming up, covering everything from the portal to college football, the changes in landscape, and of course, plenty from the NFL draft. College football playoff time, some really good games on slate today. As far as the picking a winner, I like Texas to win big. I think they are going to go in and assert their dominance. I do like Notre Dame and Penn State to win tough, close, low-scoring games. And in the upset, at least in terms of rankings, I think the Buckeyes are going to get some revenge and go out there to the Rose Bowl, beat Oregon. Either way, great football games here on New Year's Day. No matter who you have in these games, who you're rooting for, enjoy them, enjoy the games. Happy New Year, and keep scouting.